You're listening to the Ecosystem Approach Show. I'm Jason.
And I'm Patricia. Tune in every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time and 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Transformation Talk Radio.
We discovered that human potential is severely limited when you program humans like a machine, which is standard practice today for self-improvement.
The Ecosystem Approach teaches you how to uncover your infinite potential by using natural methods that are truly revolutionary. Join us now for the Ecosystem Approach Show. Today's show is about Jason because it's his birthday week. So I asked Jason, if you could talk about anything you wanted, what would it be? We'll find out what he's had on his mind that we rarely talk about in just a second. Stay tuned. We are married intuitives with over 20 years experience who created the Ecosystem Approach for you. This is much different because we see human beings as ecosystems that need to be restored instead of programmed. We show you how to take an energy approach for internal discovery that is rational, practical, and useful for everyday life. Jason, we've been teasing this topic since last week. What is the show going to be about today?
Well, it's about my complicated relationship with traditional medicine.
Okay.
And I hope this will be helpful to you on your journey toward health and a better life.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to be 70 this week. And
oh my God.
And so I've been around the block
once
or twice. And you know, this has been a big issue for us, and we're going to tell you some parts of the story.
Okay.
And you'll understand why. So let's just jump right in.
Okay.
It started with the death of my first wife.
That's not me.
Yes, and this was
okay.
My daughter's 40 now. She's she was 7 when this happened.
Right.
And my wife died of Hodgkin's disease. And at the time I was in the military, I was in the Army, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And she was eventually treated at
Walter Reed.
Walter Reed.
Yes.
And I remember this conversation. This is the first part of my relationship with traditional medicine. This conversation I had with Walter Reed, and it was an old Army doctor.
Okay.
And I don't know if he was trying to warn me or if he saw something, or it's just an Army way of just giving you the bad news first. You know, man up. You know, give you the bad news. But he explained that my wife's odds were 80%. In other words, what he was explaining to me is that out of 100 people who have Hodgkin's disease, 80 of those out of 100 will live, and 20 will die. And he went on to explain that for those 20 that die, it doesn't matter about the other 80%.
Yeah.
He was explaining medical statistics to me in a way that was very helpful at the time, because it was very personal.
Yes.
Because, you know, I was sitting there. I remember there was an atrium in Walter Reed, and it was overlooking this. It was like 3 or 4 stories up, and we were overlooking, and we had this conversation. And so what I learned from that was traditional medicine statistics does not help the individual asking, how does this affect me personally?
Right.
And if you have cancer, any other disease, and a doctor gives you statistics, that may not help you specifically.
Okay.
And by the way, if you're using the ecosystem approach, chances are, even if you have a 5% chance of life, that you could be in that 5%. So let's
meaning in 5% of the ones that live.
Yes.
Just want to make sure we're real clear on that.
Okay. Yes. So fast forward, my wife died, and my daughter was 14, and I remember we were in this. It was.
Hadn't you gone to Colorado or something?
Yeah, it was a Colorado, and we were visiting friends, and my daughter was complaining that she couldn't breathe. And it was getting worse and worse, and so we took her to the emergency there in Colorado. And I remember the doctors throwing the the X-ray, so the
Up on
X-ray,
the machine.
the X-ray machine was in the hall.
Sure.
So it's not like he took me into a quiet office or whatever. It was everybody was in the hall, and it's like a emergency room. There was
Sure.
people all over the place. And he threw the X-ray up into the machine, and I saw this shape around her heart. It was like a big circle. And that was very familiar to me because that's exactly how my
first wife's
X-ray looked when they diagnosed her Hodgkin's. And, I didn't realize it, but I was on the floor. The doctor was sitting here telling me about the X-ray, and all of a sudden he looks down and I'm there on the floor. And, the person who was with me explained that my wife had just died recently. So it was just, it was pretty traumatic. So
it was very
traumatic.
Yes.
And this was my worst fear, but it wasn't really about me. When we told my daughter, she said, I always knew I was going to get cancer like my mom. And that, so long story short, we took her to Stanford, and the oncologist there, by his own admission, and this is part of the
Okay.
medical arrogance, said, I know more about Hodgkin's disease than any other oncologist in the country.
Okay.
I'm the best, basically. And there was no doubt in my mind that what he was saying was true.
Okay.
But I knew then I didn't have the words for it. This is way before I was doing the ecosystem approach. I didn't have the words for it, but I knew that it was more about this whole story that my wife had it. She died from it. Now my daughter has it. It's in the same spot. Hodgkin's disease is a cancer of the lymph nodes. So you can have it under your arms. You have all over your body.
Different places.
It doesn't have to be in the same spot. So he talked about all that in terms of coincidence. It's just a coincidence. Oh, don't worry about that. It's just a coincidence. We don't have any data that says Hodgkin's disease is it's transmitted via DNA or genes or hereditary.
Right.
So fast forward again. We used the founder of myofascial release, was in teaching a class to occupational therapists and PTs.
Okay.
And so we got him to do a demo on my daughter, and he did this thing called talking to the tumor.
Mm-hmm.
And so he asked the tumor, and at the time, that's how he phrased it. I know now that he was talking to her essence. Okay. He was going past her personality and talking to her essence. But he asked her what type of treatment her body intelligence preferred. And it chose, he went through a whole list of top possible things.
And weren't the questions yes or no questions? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she asked for traditional chemotherapy radiation. Now, in hindsight, I know why. Because, to my daughter, it was like, it got my mom, is it going to get me? And there was some part of having to suffer. Chemotherapy, radiation is very
devastating.
Harsh,
yes,
very harsh, especially when you're 14.
Yeah.
So, we knew then that it was important to understand the person in the context, not just the disease.
Right.
So we started using an acupuncturist who also did a form of myofascial release and acupuncture to help her with the side effects of the chemotherapy.
And it really helped.
It really helped.
Yes.
And he would use craniosacral techniques, and he would ask her body the yes/no questions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was prescribed radiation and chemotherapy, 6 cycles of chemotherapy.
Okay.
After 4 cycles, and I don't know how it came up, but I think my daughter prompted him to ask, am I done?
Mm-hmm.
After 4 cycles.
Okay.
And her body said, yes, I'm done. And we stopped treatment. The doctor went and reported me to Child Protective Services in California for failure to provide adequate medical treatment. And he said in this referral that if she doesn't get the 6 cycles, my daughter would die.
Okay.
I mean, talk about arrogance. Here I am. I'm just a single dad basically, and he's saying my daughter's going to die if she doesn't get this treatment, and I'm supposed to rely on a guy who says he's talking past her personality to her body intelligence. But even back then, my intuition told me this is right. So They took us to court. The judge says wasn't going to send her off to be given the other 2 cycles. She said, I want a psychological valve, and I want you to see if you can resolve this in mediation.
Okay.
So I remember the doctor when he came to mediation, and we've told the story many times, but these are some of the things we never talked about, okay? Came to mediation like a teenager who was sent to study hall and he didn't want to do it. You know, he was, you know, if it felt kind of immature to me, you know, he's like, this is a waste of my time. I shouldn't be here.
Right.
And I remember one of the members of the mediation board was trying to sell me, trying to create a transaction. You know, well, if we did this, would you do this? If we did this, would you do that? But they didn't really understand it, and frankly, part of that was my problem, because I couldn't articulate body intelligence, body energy, essence, how that works like I can now.
Right.
And I know that's part of the impetus why we created the ecosystem approach. But the acupuncturist came, but he couldn't say anything in defense of what he did, because he would have been, his licensure would have been
discredited.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, because by definition, and a lot of the traditional medicine has a lot to do with this, says you can only talk, you know, if you're an acupuncturist, you can only do these things. If you're a chiropractor, you can only do these things. If you're a certain type of specialty, you can only do these things. You have boundaries on your scope of service. And so he didn't want to say anything. So this was what taught me the arrogance of medical science is considerable and is not open and receptive to any other approach. One of the things that ended up in the mediation is we were talking about how acupuncture was used in other countries for cancer treatment. Successfully.
Yes.
And he said, just kind of in a dismissive way, that in the United States, traditional medicine is the standard of care.
And that makes it right.
In his mind, it did.
Yes.
So we're going to keep talking about this. This is a really fascinating story.
Yes,
so
don't go away. Jason, what are the key points of this segment?
Traditional medicine's use of statistics does not help the individual asking, how does this affect me personally? Traditional medicine uses the word coincidence as a term when it's obvious that there's energy is working, but invisible in their philosophy. The arrogance of medical science is considerable, and the result is they're not open or receptive to any other approach. And the ecosystem approach teaches you to operate from essence in a way that does not conflict with any traditional medicine approach.
Okay. In the next segment, we're going to tell the rest of the story and talk about the law and the power structure around health and the monopoly traditional medicine has healthcare in
has on healthcare
in this country. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia, and you're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason, and I'm Patricia. And in this segment, we're going to tell you the rest of the story and talk about law and the power structure around health and the monopoly traditional medicine has on healthcare in this country. We are married intuitives with over 20 years experience who created the Ecosystem Approach for you. This is much different because we see human beings as ecosystems that need to be restored instead of programmed. We show you how to take an energy approach for internal discovery that is rational, practical, and useful for everyday life. Jason, first tell everyone how all of this ended up.
So the end of the story was that the supervisor at Child Protective Services, who was handling our case, found a file in the document that I'd signed that allowed for an experimental chemo drug protocol.
Okay.
And she went back to the doctor and said, "Hey, you can't have it both ways. On one hand, you had him sign a document that said we're not responsible if something happens. In other words, she could die,
right?
You know, or and then you're saying she could die without this experimental protocol. You can't have it both ways." Now he said, "Well, we could have chosen to have a regular protocol." You know,
okay.
But at the time, it really appealed to me. And frankly, this was one of the things that, you know, I should have caught this myself, but I was so angry and I was so, I had just I got a secondary degree in
Law.
as a paralegal. So I was doing my paralegal thing and trying to figure out case law and things like that. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But so they basically dropped the case.
Right. But I also want to say that you were really struggling at the time with the trauma and the drama of what was going on.
For a doctor to say, my daughter's going to die.
Yes.
Here I am, basically a single parent.
Right.
And my daughter's going to die. Oh my gosh. And fast forward, we just had our first grandchild.
Yes.
Who's a year and a half from her, and she's not dead.
She's well, and I want to. Can I just
say that?
I do have a small part in this story. I was at home one day, and the phone rang, and it was Stanford Medical
the
Center,
hospital.
or the hospital, and they asked me who I was, and I explained who I was, and they asked me if I knew his daughter, and I said, of course, yes, I do, and they said, well, how is she still alive? And I said, yeah, she is. And they said, well, wait a minute. You mean she's still alive? And so they asked me intricate things about what she was doing with her life and how she was doing and her health and all of those sort of things. They were dumbfounded that she was still alive.
And I guarantee you.
And by the way, she's very alive.
They're going to take that information and spin it.
Yes.
This is part of the arrogance to say, oh, well, the treatment was so effective.
Yes.
Because it was part of a trial program. And I think that's one of the reasons why he was fighting for it, because he wanted that trial to be approved.
Sure.
He probably had a hand in that. And I have no problem with that, but they would interpret it as that it was so effective.
Yes.
So here's, and here's the other thing. And we've talked about this story many times on the show, but some of these things I've never talked about, and I think it's really important.
Okay.
The acupuncturist went there to this mediation with us for moral support.
Yes, for you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he wasn't a help at all. And it wasn't his fault, but he didn't want to
step in it
and say, I got this from her body intelligence.
Right.
Because he has no legal basis to say that as an acupuncturist.
Right.
Based on his license, he can't say that. And I know, because I looked, there is nothing, there's no precedent. There's no at that time, and I would be curious to check it out now. If you know something about this, reach out to us.
Yeah.
But I'd be interested to know if there's been any precedent that says the body intelligence has value.
Well,
that's higher than medical science and data.
Well, am I correct? And I'm jumping in probably at the wrong spot, but am I correct? This new thing where they have been able to see that there is a biofield around our physical beings.
I read this recently. This was a National Institute of Health, that it's been proven that the human body has a biofield around it, which doesn't prove, but it gives credence to acupuncture and chiropractic in a way that makes sense.
And by the way, we use all kinds of medicine for ourselves.
We have an amazing chiropractor.
Yes,
and
thank you very much.
He's got these magic hands. He's very intuitive, and he's very effective.
Very much.
And we know how it works, because by lining up the spine, the energy flow in your body works much better.
Right.
And it's a great way to maintain your health and to deal with things that are a problem. But here's the thing: the law is based on experts with credentials, and traditional medicine controls the credentials.
Yes, it does.
So you're not going to find someone that's going to go into court. At the time, I found other doctors who agreed with me that you shouldn't force the kid.
Right.
But that was their opinion.
There was no precedence
there was no documentation or nothing. And this is what I see: the arrogance of traditional medicine. But I've got to I tip my hat to them. They've got the courts locked up.
Yes, they do.
Yes, alternative medicine has been a big fail in terms of creating a philosophy that they can justify
Mhm.
in a court setting
Oof.
with credentials, with
Yeah.
proof, that sort of thing. But I also understand that the frame of traditional medicine is flawed. Humans are not a machine and not made up of pieces that can be isolated.
Right.
Medical proof is based on the fact that you could take one part, one drug interaction, or some sort of surgery that you isolate and say, well, we tried it here, and we can see with a certain level of confidence, these are statistics for you math majors, that this works. 80% of the time, 75% of the time, whatever it is. When you try and do that with acupuncture or even chiropractic, chiropractic is not to get a specific result. Typically, they're only supposed to work on the back, and they can't really say that they work on anything else, although we know that they do.
Yes.
Allergies and all sorts of things.
And do an amazing job.
Do an amazing job.
Yes, they do.
But you don't go to chiropractic for a certain thing. Typically, you go to benefit your overall health, or because if you have back problems.
Oh, yes. In other words, you're trying to relieve some sort of pain.
Yes, exactly. So even with them, the traditional medicine, and I don't want to digress, but there was a big lawsuit where it was proven that traditional medicine, the AMA, was literally trying to squelch chiropractors in terms of restraint of trade in a way that was very inappropriate. And it was proven that, and that's when the chiropractors have the standing that they do now. So, but here's the problem. The doctor at the time, the oncologist who knew the most about Hodgkin's disease in the country, he knew the most about the disease. But we know that it's not the disease, it's the disease within the ecosystem that's the most relevant.
Meaning your own personal ecosystem.
Right.
Yes.
And the fact that my daughter's mother had died from this specific disease that my daughter had said she always knew she was going to get the disease is not irrelevant. It's central.
It's a big piece.
Central to the cause of the cancer in the first place.
Exactly.
And that there is an intelligence of the body that is a guide for treatment. That's the best guide.
Well, and one of the things we found, and it was, I'm going to say, it was rather a surprise to us when we started, when we created the ecosystem approach, we started seeing all kinds of things regarding the body
and
itself,
energy
and energy, exactly.
Things that are intangible,
exactly, that make a difference when you have an understanding or even clarity about it.
Traditional medicine always wants a pathology.
Yes,
they always want data. They want to see it, and they want to see it, be able to repeat it over and over again. But what happens?
But that says we're all machines. But go ahead.
Well, exactly, and that's the flaw.
Yes.
But it's a huge flaw, and no one's saying anything about it. So
yes, which is actually kind of sad. So
the best uses for traditional medicine, just to wrap it up, when you have clear diagnosis and treatment, mechanical problems, trauma, you've been hit in a car accident, that sort of thing. When the treatment is cheaper because it's covered by insurance,
right,
which is not fair, but that's the way it is, or essential surgeries.
Yes.
You had a heart valve replaced. At the time that we discovered the problem, surgery was almost the only option. Alternative medicine wouldn't have helped you at that point.
That's exactly right.
You could have died a couple of weeks later. So
right.
The best uses for alternative medicine: heightened states of health, physical development, vague and difficult to diagnose conditions. Oh my gosh, because they bring the body into balance. It doesn't matter what the condition is.
Right.
They heal the body. Condition the symptoms that are intermittent. Oh my gosh, when they move around, or one day you have it here, one day you have it here.
Well, and that in itself, to me, proves that things are energetic.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So, and also in alternative medicine, the person treating becomes very important.
Yes.
They need
meaning the center of attention.
Yes. I mean, the person, they have to have intuition and excellent judgment. It's all of those things.
All right, Jason, what is the key points of this segment?
The frame of traditional medicine is flawed. Humans are not a machine made up of pieces that can be isolated. It's not a disease that's important. It's the disease within the ecosystem context that is the most relevant. And to me, it's now, after we've been doing this for over 20 years, it's so obvious. It's so obvious, but it's not obviously enough to enough people. The intelligence of the body has no power within our legal system. You would be crazy to go into a court of law and say something like that because
Yeah.
you can't back it up at this point. And the ecosystem approach is designed to help you see the intelligence of the body or your essence for good outcomes, even with traditional medicine.
I love it.
So we haven't abandoned traditional medicine, but we know its limitations.
Exactly. In the next segment, we're going to talk about how all this experience interacting with traditional medicine was a major part of why we created the ecosystem approach to work at the source of good health, not just for health, but for a better life in general. We'll try and summarize our experience. Yes, this is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia, and you're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason, and I'm Patricia. And in this segment, we're going to talk about all this experience interacting with traditional medicine. It was a major part of why we created the ecosystem approach, to work at the source of good health, not just for your health, but for a better life in general, which, by the way, having a better life in general is huge.
Yes.
We will try and summarize our experience. We're married intuitives with over 20 years experience who created the ecosystem approach for you. This is much different because we see human beings as ecosystems that need to be restored instead of programmed. We show you how to take an energy approach for internal discovery that is rational, practical, and useful for everyday life. Okay, Jason. We've talked about this story, but since we've been together and even before, there are other stories that have influenced our thinking, meaning individually for both you and myself. So what do you want to say to the audience on your birthday to summarize your thinking?
You know, I've thought a lot about this, and I've never really been able to talk about it this way in this context. But the most important point is not to be black and white. That traditional medicine is bad, alternative medicine is good, alternative medicine is bad, traditional medicine is good. None of those really work.
Not that thinking.
I mean, just briefly, you had a doctor tell you that you'd be in a wheelchair by the time you were 20, 30? 30.
By the time I was 30.
And you're not in a wheelchair.
Oh, no. I dance every day.
Yes. So you had pancreatitis.
Yes.
When we met. And that's one of the first things we cleared.
We got rid of it. It was the most amazing thing because I was definitely on a track of not doing well.
People have died from pancreatitis.
Oh gosh, yes.
And when you tell a doctor that I had it but now I don't, he doesn't believe you.
No, they don't.
There's a form of denial in traditional medicine when these things happen with alternative medicine. They find a way to coincidence. That was accidental. That didn't happen. That sort of thing.
Maybe they did. One of the ones I've heard. Oh, you were misdiagnosed.
Yeah. So it's when they're supposed to be so objective, they really aren't when it comes to whether their treatment protocols are valid or not.
Right.
So, but here's the point.
Okay.
The reason we created the ecosystem approach in the first place was we know that you can't just go to a doctor and say, take care of me. You can't go to an alternative medicine practitioner and say, take care of me, because it doesn't work. Even these two, alternative medicine and traditional medicine, are not holistic enough for all of your particular needs.
Correct.
And I'm talking about you in this audience, me, Patricia, all of us. So there's an importance to understand that we live in an energetic world.
Correct.
And
really important.
It really is. And that seeing and working with energy is essential for daily living.
Well, and I want to say one of the things you and I have discovered, because we created and it's why we created the ecosystem approach. There's one factor that many are leaving out, and I'm not going to point fingers here, but they're leaving out that. Number one, we are all unique. Yes, absolutely. But when you understand that things happen because of the energies that you have connected with, picked up, been taught,
Programmed with.
thank you. That so much is missed because most of us don't see the importance of understanding energy. And then, of course, the ecosystem approach teaches you how it works.
And simply put, we expect everyone, we can see that everyone has the ability to see their unique situation, see it, perceive it energetically, and
that's correct.
And in the physical.
Yes.
And then know, based on talking to their essence, what the best course of action is.
Yeah, correct. And the worst part is that the programming that has been done since, I'm going to say for the last 2,000 years, right around there. I am guesstimating, but we've been taught that we have to go the programmed way. And right now,
you just go find an expert to give you a formula or a recipe on what to do.
Exactly.
One of the things about my daughter at the time is, and this is part of her personality too. So
the only reason I'm laughing is because I happen to know her very well.
And she's 14, and she was 14 at the time, so she was a teenager. Okay?
Right.
But she knew that she was going to be okay, and she knew that additional chemotherapy was going to be bad for her.
Yeah, she did.
And that was her intuition that was working. She is highly intuitive, even to this day, and it works for her really well.
Yes.
So, okay. Here's the other thing.
Okay.
The ecosystem approach is designed so you can be stealth in terms of your judgment and your intuition for your best care.
Okay.
So when we go into a doctor's office, we don't go into with our hands on our hips and say, you better prove it.
Blah, blah,
we're
blah,
angry.
Blah, blah.
You better, we give them
the ability and to talk, and we listen.
There was this, this was in, I read this a long time ago in How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Okay.
Dale Carnegie.
Yes.
It was his comments of give a dog a good name. And I'm not calling traditional medicine people dogs, but
no.
It's just go in there and approach them in a respectful manner.
Exactly.
And try and get information that can be helpful to you. Then we use our intuition and we clear a path to get what we want from a good outcome from whatever treatment we're choosing to have or not choosing to have.
It's pretty awesome because yes, I admit we do have each other to bounce things off of, but even when I don't have Jason in the moment to bounce things off of, and I'm talking about medical things or things that are going on, the ecosystem approach has given me a way, a path to sit down, be calm for a few minutes and listen to what my essence is talking about.
One of the things that we do all the time is that we change anything that's wrong with you into a metaphor.
Yes.
So if
it makes a difference.
Yes. One of the big things today is diabetes. Type 2 diabetes.
Yes.
The metaphor in general, if you have this, it may not be specific to you, but it's can I get you close?
Okay. In general,
is no sweetness in life. It's a form of depression.
Exactly. If depression and anger mixed together.
Yeah.
And you feel like, there's no way out.
So you look at your story and say, okay, where is this coming from? And if you do that using the ecosystem approach, you'll see what it is.
True.
And
true.
we've been doing this together for over 22 years now. We're still getting, and just this morning we were sitting and there's some things coming up from your story that you didn't remember before.
Until
you
now.
Didn't see it with the clarity that you do now.
And
which is helpful.
Which is very helpful, and especially for my heart, because my heart was broken as a kid.
Yes.
And it's starting to all the pieces are starting to be put together, and it's when the pieces are being put together, in other words, know your story, and when the pieces start to be put together, then there's a clarity, and removing negative energy becomes even better.
One of the things that I like about the ecosystem approach, and the producer today was just talking about doing screenwriting, so we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But I've seen a lot of people that do energy work, in a lot of movies, are ridiculed.
Oh.
And I remember there was one movie a long time ago. I don't remember the name of it, unfortunately, but there was all this chaos going on, and this person said, "I can't deal with this right now. She went over and got in a lotus position and did, it's like it was denial. That wasn't helping. That, people like that don't help the situation.
No.
You have to have people that can roll up their sleeves and say, I'm going to take care of this right now.
Correct.
But I see that we create the ecosystem approach because you don't have to dye your hair blue, have a special handshake, wear a special T-shirt that says.
So my tie-dye T-shirts are out.
Yeah, well,
I mean, I don't know what to do with all of this.
Sweetie. We don't. There's no special handshake. There's
right.
The ecosystem approach is not a cult where we have a secret handshake, that sort of thing. But it's an internal process that you do that's private to you.
Exactly.
It's unique to you.
Yes.
And the development inside out is amazing, and
Truly.
it's exactly what you need when you have a health condition. But when you have money problems, relationship problems.
In other words, it's not for one thing.
Just anything in your life, because you're the center of your ecosystem. Your essence is the center of your ecosystem.
Right.
So
I just want to jump in and say the ecosystem approach really helps you empower yourself for living. And I have to tell you, I don't see a lot of that in other holistic approaches.
We don't say this enough, and it's not meant to be critical, but we see other energy approaches and they don't go anywhere near close enough to remove the negative energy that you need to really start to change and be empowered.
Exactly.
It's more superficial. It's like sweeping dirt on a dirt floor. It doesn't get to what you need to get to.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And what we do, the way we do that is that we use the Enneagram to see the negative energy. We use astrology to see how you are authentically, and we keep going and going and
Correct.
deeper and deeper. And it's so simple on the surface, but it can take you so far. And there's no other approach that I've seen takes you as far as this does. We had a time when we were doing this work where people were coming to us and saying, "Oh, you don't have to, you won't have to do very much because I've already done a whole bunch of work." and they have done. They've done
a lot of things.
Years and years rebirthing and things like that.
Yes.
But when we looked at them,
nobody removed the negative energy.
Nobody removed. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are running out of time. Jason, what are the key points of this segment?
I wanted to go on and on here. It's my birthday.
Oh,
so okay, here we go. Best uses of traditional medicine: clear diagnosis, treatment, mechanical problems, trauma, and when it's lower cost to you.
Okay.
Alternative medicine: heightened states of health, physical development, vague and difficult to diagnose conditions and symptoms that are intermittent. And sometimes you can have the combination of the two.
Yes.
If you see yourself as the center of your ecosystem and start seeing and working with the energies that block you, oh my God.
Way to go.
And the ecosystem approach teaches you to transform your life by working with the energy in the best, most empowering ways.
Exactly. And normally we because Mr. Chatty over here, we need to we're going to go, when we go to the next segment, we're going to teach you how to remove negative energy.
That sounds good.
Stay tuned. When we come back, we're going to help you start to remove the negative energy so you can be in charge of your health in the very best way. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia, and you're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason, and I'm Patricia. And in this segment, we're going to help you start to remove the negative energy so you can be in charge of your health in the best way. Jason, we of course ran out of time because we were having a really good time.
Yes, so we were having.
Yes, we were. So could you explain to the audience how to do the clearing? And if you already know, that's great. But if you don't, please pay attention. This is really worth it.
It's very simple. All you have to do is you can use any body posture. You don't have to be standing. You don't have to be reverent. You can be standing, sitting, walking, laying down, standing on your head. It doesn't matter.
I get a headache when I stand on my head like that, but go ahead.
And when we say, and to eliminate, in your mind's eye, in your imagination, just gather up all those feelings, barriers, veils, and illusions, whatever we say to eliminate.
Yes.
And then blow them into the processor, If you've never seen a picture of the processor, it's on our website.
Correct.
You can go there and I'll tell you how to do that in just a minute.
Okay.
And if you don't know what the processor looks like,
Use the garbage can.
Yeah, use the garbage can and we'll empty it for you.
Okay. And then afterwards, we're going to talk about life force energy and how to use that. It's the most powerful energy that any of us has access to. So with that said, Jason, let's get started.
I direct all my resources and all dimensions to eliminate the barriers so I can see my essence and its energy is the center of my personal ecosystem and has all the power.
Yes.
That has all the information. Take a breath.
You're removing the barriers that are keeping you from that power. Throw it away. We're going to shorten it up just a little bit and to eliminate the barriers so I can see that my disease or illness is not the most important. It's my whole ecosystem that's important. Nice and easy. Take a breath and blow it out.
And to eliminate the intense feelings of worry, anxiety, and stress I have that is part of any illness or disease that I have or will have in the future.
Good one. Okay, take a breath. Blow it out. And to eliminate any feelings of fear and hurt and shame that I have that creates negative energy in my own ecosystem. And I know I can remove it. Take a breath. Throw it away. And by the way, the reason we use the processor or the garbage or the garbage can is you're doing all this work. You don't want to just throw it around and get up and walk back into it. You need to put it in a place where you know it's going to, you're going to be safe from it.
And our processor literally puts it in the top,
yes.
processes it, and comes out neutral. So it's
amazing.
There's still the same amount of energy in the world,
absolutely,
but it just takes the negative energy out of it.
Correct. All right, so go ahead.
And to eliminate any feelings of fear, hurt, and shame I have that create negative energy in my ecosystem.
I love that. Take a breath. And to eliminate the barriers so I can see. Programming numbs your natural ability to see each situation uniquely and work with the energy for the best result. Take a breath and blow it out into that garbage can or processor.
And to eliminate any feelings of fear and terror that I have because I've been programmed to believe that traditional medicine knows all and I can't ever question it. Take a breath.
Take a breath. And to eliminate any feelings of fear and terror that I have because I've been programmed to believe that traditional medicine knows all. Oh, we just did that one and can't ever question it. Let's go to the next one. And to eliminate the barriers so I can see that illness is always holistic and affects many or all parts of my life. Take a breath.
And to eliminate any resentment that I have that I can't just use traditional medicine or alternative medicine. The best is always the combination.
Take a breath. And to eliminate any resistance I have to using energy and the ecosystem approach because it seems more difficult when the truth is it's not. It actually helps you because you're taking in oxygen to help yourself. Take a breath and blow it out.
And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that practically it's better to seemingly accept medical science arrogance. In other words, don't go in there with guns blaming and says, I don't believe you guys, you you guys are all a bunch of numbskulls. It's just do it in a way that makes it easy for you.
Exactly. Take a breath. And to eliminate the barriers so I can see that alternative medicine push for natural and organic generally, well, unfortunately is not possible. Take a breath.
It's never a good idea that someone who's got a knife and is about to cut you open,
yes,
to call them bad names or to have an attitude with them. So
yes, okay, I'll agree with you on that one.
Just a little bit of homespun wisdom.
Yes.
And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that illness and disease is never just physical, but always has emotions and energies involved.
Absolutely. In other words, you are a whole system. Take a breath. Blow out any negative veils and illusions. And go ahead.
And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that the best way is that using the ecosystem approach
to decide.
to decide and to know what's best for me in any
Exactly.
particular moment.
Yes, take a breath. Now, we talked about life force just a minute ago, and life force is, like I said, the most powerful energy that any of us has access to. And what we're going to do is we're going to call upon that life force. We're going to activate it. We're going to have it come in through the top of our head and go all the way to the tips of our toes. We're going to stop it right there. And then we're going to turn it around, and we're going to remove any negative energy left over from whatever we're talking about here, so that you can have less toxins in your body, or with enough time, no toxins in your body. So here we go. Follow me. I direct all my resources in all dimensions to activate life force energy, so I can be happy and healthy and have clarity for who I am, but also have the knowing that when I have something that needs to be addressed, that if I use the ecosystem approach, I can have a better, more 360 view of what's going on with me, as opposed to just one or even 2 points of view. Starting right now, take a breath. Pull in that energy, let it go all the way through your body, and then blow out any negative energy left over. Jason?
And to activate life force, so I can have hope to be totally in charge of myself, my health, and my life.
I love it. Pull that in. Life force.
Boom,
Life.
wackadoo, wackadoo, wackadoo. Yeah, anyways.
Blow it out. And to activate life force, so I can trust that I can remove the negative energies attached to me for better health. Starting right now, today, take a breath and let it go in. And now blow any negative energy left over out.
And to activate life force, so I can decide to focus my emotions, energies, and my ecosystem, not on my ecosystem, not specific parts of my health.
Take a breath. And last one. And to activate life force, so I can be happy and healthy, have laughter and love of myself, and the knowing that the ecosystem approach will help me in every single aspect of my life, every single day, if I choose to use it. Pull it in. That's that life force energy. Let it go all the way through. Now blow out any negative energies left over. Jason, it's just before Christmas and there's high expectations.
Next week we're going to talk about how to just have a good Christmas using energy. It's just that simple.
Okay.
Be sure and tune in.
I love it.
And
love it.
If today's show said, "Oh yeah, I can relate to that. Oh yeah,
cha-ching.
I need this. Oh yeah, I want to take an energy approach to my life." Here's what you do.
Okay.
Listen to our show every week. First of all. Second of all, go to our website right now, the ecosystemapproach.org. Sign up for our free section. You get our weekly clearings.
Right.
The more clearings you do, the better off you'll be.
And have fun with it.
Yes.
And not to mention, go look at our newsletter and
Go to our
website,
Facebook page, The Ecosystem Approach, and like us while you're there.
Okay. We'll connect next week, Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific and 4 p.m. Eastern Time. This is Transformation Talk Radio, and you're listening to the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia.
Remember, your ecosystem is the most important one in the world.
Thank you for listening to the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia. I'm Patricia. Tune in every week as we discuss practical ways to apply the ecosystem approach and develop your potential to live your life on your terms. For more information, visit our website at theecosystemapproach.org.